the world never stops, does it? I mean, every minute there's just this flood of information and makes it really hard to cut through all that noise and to really get what's shaping things globally. It's easy to feel, overwhelmed, just skim the headlines. But what if you could get a kind of guided tour? A way to really grasp the pulse of global events, not just as separate things, but all connected. So that's our mission today. We've picked a pretty unique lens, the Wikipedia portal.current events page, specifically the last week of August 2025. And we're going deep. This isn't just about, listing the news. It's about understanding how surprisingly interconnected things are through this sort of crowdsourced record.
Exactly. And that's where the real insight often comes from, I think. When you take a week like this, distill it down, you start seeing these patterns, connections that the daily news cycle just, often misses.
Yeah.
We want to go beyond just what happened to why does this actually matter, drawing out the significance, finding those unexpected bits of insight from all these different events.
Absolutely. So for you listening, this is going to be a kind of curated journey. We'll navigate through major global stuff conflicts, climate records, legal battles, all designed to give you a clearer, maybe more nuanced picture of our world. So let's jump in. Maybe start with a theme that's just, everywhere now, our changing environment. Okay, so Tokyo. Huge global city, right? It just recorded something pretty unprecedented. 10 days straight, temperatures at or above 35 Celsius, that's 95 Fahrenheit. Longest streak like that since they started keeping records way back in 1875.
Wow. Since 1875.
Almost 150 years.
So what's really striking there isn't just the record itself, though that's big enough. It's what it signals. This isn't just some isolated heat wave. It's a dramatic example of the urban heat island effect, but massively amplified by the broader climate trends we're seeing. For a megacity like Tokyo, sustained heat like that, it's not just uncomfortable, it's a critical challenge. Public health, infrastructure, the power grids, it really hints at the massive changes needed in how we plan cities globally.
And Tokyo wasn't the only place feeling it. On August 27th, those flash floods, landslides in Jammu and Kashmir, India, just awful. At least 65 people killed. Then, the day before, Pakistan evacuating over 100,000 people in Punjab, India released water from dams into the Sutlej River right in the middle of heavy monsoons.
Right.
And Vietnam got hit too. Typhoon Kajiki made landfall, 600,000 evacuated, 4 deaths reported. It feels like the week was just a stark reminder of extreme weather hitting everywhere.
It really does. And these events, they just underscore this grim reality, don't they? Climate disruption isn't some future threat. It's happening now. These are present-day humanitarian crises. And they often hit the most vulnerable populations hardest. That situation in Pakistan with the dam releases making the monsoon floods worse. It's a really complex example of how human infrastructure and natural events can combine with devastating results.
Okay, so from the environment, let's maybe pivot to international relations. Some really high-stakes diplomacy happening this past week. One particularly assertive move came from Australia, August 26. Prime Minister Albanese announces they're closing the embassy in Tehran, expelling Iranian ambassadors. And this is big, designating the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, as a terrorist organization. And they link this directly to an investigation into anti-Semitic attacks inside Australia, connecting them to the IRGC.
Yeah, that is a profound diplomatic shift, designating a state entity like the IRGC as terrorist. That's a very, very strong condemnation. You're essentially saying part of a foreign government acts like a non-state terrorist group. It goes way beyond typical sanctions. It can redefine intelligence sharing, financial dealings, even the legal status of people linked to the IRGC. Huge ripple effects across alliances.
And Iran was also in focus for European powers, right? France, Germany, the UK. They failed to get an agreement with Iran in Geneva about avoiding the possible reimposition of UN sanctions under that 2015 nuclear deal's snapback mechanism.
Ah, the snapback. It's a really critical, often misunderstood piece of that deal. It basically allows UN sanctions to automatically come back into force without needing a new Security Council vote, so it bypasses potential vetoes. The fact they couldn't reach an agreement there, it just highlights how fragile these international nuclear accords still are and the immense diplomatic tightrope walk needed to prevent things from unraveling. It's a moment of real tension. Could undo years of work.
Shifting gears again, but still in diplomacy. Denmark's foreign minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, summoned the top U.S. diplomat in Copenhagen, the Chargé d'Affaires. This was apparently over covert influence activities in Greenland, reportedly linked to U.S. President Donald Trump.
Greenland. What's fascinating there is its enduring strategic importance. It has this long history in U.S. foreign policy, especially back in the Cold War. So any hint of external interference, particularly covert stuff, is incredibly sensitive for Denmark. They see Greenland as, part of their realm, even with its autonomy. This incident really shows how even seemingly remote places can become these flashpoints for tension, testing trust between allies who've been together for ages.
Let's turn now maybe to the human cost. Global conflicts, urgent humanitarian situations, that seemed to dominate the week too, and perhaps the most devastating piece of news came on August 22nd. The UN-backed Food Security Classification System, the IPC, officially declared a famine in Gaza Governorate. Conditions in North Gaza estimated to be just as bad, maybe worse. This system, it categorizes food insecurity on a 5-phase scale. Famine is the absolute worst. Widespread starvation, severe malnutrition. The UN Office for Human Rights attributed this directly to Israeli actions. The Israeli government disputes that report.
Yeah, declaring a famine isn't done lightly at all. It's a very rigorous process based on specific hard data mortality rates, malnutrition levels, food access. When it's officially declared, it signals a complete catastrophe, a humanitarian crisis of the highest order. And regardless of the disputed causes, the sheer scale of human suffering in Gaza is just immense. It comes from the conflict, the displacement, the severely restricted access to basics. This isn't just a food shortage. It's a fundamental breakdown of the systems that keep people alive.
And the Gaza war itself sadly kept appearing in the news all week. Reports of Israeli airstrikes on Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis on the 25th killed 22 people, reportedly, including 5 journalists. Then on the 24th, reports of Israeli forces killing 4 Palestinians who were trying to get humanitarian aid near the Netzarim corridor. Hamas reported 64 Palestinians killed near Gaza City, as Israel was apparently planning to seize the city. And also on the 24th, Israeli airstrikes targeting Houthis in Sana'a, Yemen, killing 10.
It paints such a stark picture, doesn't it? The immense tragic impact on civilians. And critically, on the journalists trying to report from these incredibly dangerous zones. It just underscores the risks they take and the devastating human cost of these ongoing hostilities and raises serious questions about the rules of engagement around places like hospitals and aid routes.
These events, these escalations, they led to a pretty significant global response. On August 24th, estimates were around 300,000 people marching across Australia, 100,000 just in Melbourne, protesting the Israeli escalation, the plans for Gaza City, calling for Australian sanctions on Israel. And this was just 2 days before Australia's Prime Minister made that dramatic announcement about Iran.
Right. It really shows the power of public opinion in international relations, doesn't it? When hundreds of thousands march, it sends a clear message. It often reflects these deep humanitarian concerns, calls for policy shifts, and that can definitely resonate when governments make decisions. It reminds you that domestic feeling often shapes foreign policy, especially on issues people feel strongly about.
And beyond Gaza, other humanitarian crises popped up too. Nigeria had that cholera outbreak in Bukium. At least 8 dead, over 200 infected. And in Botswana, President Boko declared a public health emergency. The national medical supply chain had apparently collapsed. He ordered military management, allocated emergency funds.
These diverse situations, they really highlight how interconnected global health crises often are, frequently made worse by underlying weaknesses in public health systems, political stability. Cholera in one place, supply chain collapse in another. They're distinct, but they both show how fragile essential services can be in many parts of the world. Global health security is still a critical ongoing challenge.
Okay, let's shift again. Let's look at some intriguing developments around law, the rule of law, and even constitutional debates. On August 25th, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order instructing the Justice Department to federally prosecute flag desecration. Now, what makes this really stand out is that the order itself apparently acknowledges this directly contradicts First Amendment protections, as affirmed by the Supreme Court in Texas v. Johnson and United States v. Eichmann.
Wow. That is a rare and striking example of direct tension between executive power and established constitutional law, especially around fundamental rights like free speech. For the order itself to admit it conflicts with Supreme Court precedent, that raises huge questions about the separation of powers, doesn't it? About the judiciary's role in upholding the Constitution. It's a very bold move, almost seems like it's inviting a legal challenge, a re-examination of those landmark cases.
We also saw, tragically, that mass shooting at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis on August 27th. A transgender individual killed 2, wounded 18, described as an apparent anti-Christian hate crime. The shooter died by suicide. And then separately, in Australia, 2 police officers killed, a third wounded, in what was suspected to be a sovereign citizen terrorist attack in Porepunkah, Victoria.
That term, sovereign citizen, it refers to people who basically deny the legitimacy of government laws altogether, believe they aren't subject to state authority. It's a fringe ideology, but tragically, it has led to violent confrontations with law enforcement before. Both incidents, though obviously very different, they just underscore these persistent challenges societies face with violence, with hate, with extremist ideologies that can unfortunately manifest in such destructive ways.
Amidst all these really weighty issues, there was also a fascinating discovery in science and tech: full genome sequencing of a completely new lineage of pre-ceramic period humans, found at the Chukwa site in Colombia.
Ah, that Chukwa discovery. That's potentially huge for understanding human history in the Americas. Full genome sequencing gives you unprecedented detail into early human migrations, population structures, even cultural developments. It pushes the boundaries of archaeology, anthropology, offers new ways to see how early societies actually formed.
And finally, just touching back on August 23rd quickly, Taiwan had that referendum on reopening the Manshan nuclear power plant. It actually failed to meet the legal threshold to be binding, even though a majority of voters were in favor.
Yeah, that Taiwanese referendum outcome is such a classic example of democratic complexity, isn't it? When you have these turnout thresholds, you can have clear popular support, but legal technicality means, well, the plant stays closed. It also perfectly captures that ongoing global debate. Nuclear energy versus renewables as part of the energy transition. That conversation is happening everywhere, not just Taiwan.
So what does this all mean? Wow. We've just covered a selection, really, from an incredible range of events, just 1 week in August 2025, seen through this unique lens of Wikipedia's current events portal: climate records, geopolitical maneuvering, humanitarian crises, constitutional standoffs, even scientific breakthroughs.
And this curated snapshot, pulled from this global collective source, it really does reveal the intricate interconnectedness, the constant flux of global affairs. It helps you, hopefully, understand the world beyond just those isolated headlines, shows how something happening in one place can echo and influence things elsewhere in surprising, often profound ways.
You've just been on a bit of a whirlwind tour, haven't you? Gaining, we hope, a curated understanding of events you might have otherwise missed or only seen fragments of. So as we reflect on this concentrated week, this snapshot of global events, what does it tell you about maybe human resilience or the persistent challenges we keep facing? How do you filter and make sense of this constant, relentless flow of information?